Stewie breaks a record and sets a career high. Got the WNBA power rankings, and we're going to ask, what can the WNBA do better so that they can convert more college women's basketball fans? That plus Sky News right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans and WNBA fans for that matter? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. I'm the host here, Haize. You can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. If you want to follow the show, you can do so at Shy Sky Pod on every social media platform. But let's go ahead and get into the topics for today. First up, Breanna Stewart. I had talked about in the first episode a couple of days ago how the Liberty kind of disappointed in their first game. Well, they heard me and said, Haize, please shut the hell up. And Breanna Stewart scores 45 points, a career high, and sets a franchise records. 45 points, 12 rebounds. She goes 15-21 shooting from the field and 6 3-pointers made. Stewie was balling. That's just what it comes down to. Stewie absolutely balled out, rightfully so, and just showed the world why she is the best player in the world. And so, when it comes to that, love to see performances like that. You guys know, as much as I'm a Sky fan, I'm a WNBA historian on top of that. I love the WNBA as a whole. And to see Stewie and the Liberty show out in the way that they did, listen, it was fun to see. It was a fun game to watch. And overall, you really get the feeling that Sabrina and Courtney Vandersloot are still trying to work out their chemistry together. And that team is going to take a while before they're firing on all cylinders. But when you get individual performances like that, and performances that it wasn't just Stewie, right? But when you get the performances that they can get from the players that they have on that roster, you're going to win some games. And it just makes them even more dangerous because they still haven't figured each other out. There's that balance that they're going to have to figure out between Sabrina Ionescu and Courtney Vandersloot. And as they figure out that balance of, ball handling and who's going to be setting everybody up and things like that and learning to play off the ball with each other, as those things come along, you're going to have a dangerous team in the New York Liberty. And we've already seen the Las Vegas Aces look like exactly the team that they were supposed to look like on paper. It's going to be a fun season around the W, right? It's going to be a fun season. I guess not if you're one of those people who just don't want to see the super teams work out. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be fun, and you can ingratiate yourself to the WNBA by just watching it. And this is a time where the WNBA is hopefully converting a lot of fans as well. And so as they continue to go through that, having these type of super teams, having these type of performances, hearing about this stuff is going to get more people in the door. So whether right or wrong, however you look at it, having those type of performances, they can't do nothing but help the W grow, in my opinion. And, not everyone has to share that opinion, and that's fine. I know we all have our different things that we look at in sports, but, it's just great to see those type of individual record-setting performances from a player that you also like, because I do like Stewie as well. Hate that the New York Liberty are a super team now, but, it is what it is there. Now, with that said, after the first weekend around the WNBA, we have updated power rankings, and so stays pretty much the same as you were expected. Las Vegas Aces are still number one in those power rankings. The Connecticut Sun, they were ranked previously at number 4 in ESPN's power rankings, they're now ranked number 2. The Mystics stay at number 3, so they stay right at where they were expected to be. But our Chicago Sky, for example, move up from number 10 to number 4 after going 2-0 and showing that brand of defense. I tell you what, the defense that the Chicago Sky play, while I'm not calling the Chicago Sky a championship team by any stretch of the imagination, we play championship level defense already as we're still learning to grow, right? The New York Liberty go 1-1. They drop down to number 5. They'll be back up. The the Los Angeles Sparks, they win their one and only game so far. They're at number 8. They move up from number 8 to number 6. Then you have the Dallas Wings at number 7, moving down from number 5, even though they won their only game. The Lynx, they move down to number 8 after losing their only game. The Dream, number 9. The Mercury at number 10, losing both of their games. The Storm, 0-1 at 11. And then you have the Indiana Fever at number 2. The Fever are going to have a very rough season. But, it's still, I want to see the Fever and the Sky be rivals. So it's still forget the Fever every day, right? That is what it is. But, it was a fun opening weekend around the WNBA, and it's going to shape up to get even better. And we're going to talk about the Sky's upcoming schedule here in a second before we end the show. But before we do that, I want to talk about something. And I actually was listening to Around the Rim podcast, which is ESPN's WNBA podcast. Great show, by the way. Like a great show. I love the conversation they had, but they raised an interesting point there, right? They talked about how the NBA, the WNBA has not done the best job at converting college women basketball fans to WNBA fans. And then they talked about some of the reasons why. And I actually thought that they were kind of spot on in the reasons why they brought up. When you look at how many of the newer players, right, the draftees out of the 3 rounds of the draft just don't make their opening night roster, it's kind of hard to convert those fans when they don't really know what to expect. We have so many players around the WNBA that have been around the league for years and years and years that the newer players don't really get an opportunity to really shine. Some even rookies have to go away for a couple of years and eventually come back. Look at our own Elena Smith as well on this roster. And so that I think was such an astute point on just looking at why the WNBA and the growth of the game sometimes is slower than what you may expect, especially after you have like a women's finals tournament like you did this year. And, the WNBA ratings are up, so that's always good. But while we don't have that type of conversion that you would expect, right, that type of that type of growth, right? The WNBA, I will say this, as much as I love this league and I love the product that they put on the court, they don't do a very good job at all at marketing and building new stars, right? That's why when you see players like Aaliyah Boston, and her just come in and perform right away, right? You want to see that. But it's harder to come by in the WNBA. You don't really grow new stars as regularly as you do in the NBA, right? You have rookies that come in. Yeah, Victor Wembanyama is a bad example because he's a generational talent projectedly, but you have those new faces of the league that pop up every 5, 6, 7 years at the minimum, if not every couple of years, and then, they may fizzle out or whatever and not turn into the superstars that we thought. But you have new faces every year in the NBA and in the NFL in almost every major sport. In the WNBA, you don't get that. You get that once every 5 years, basically, where you get a player that comes in as a rookie and really becomes, the face of that organization or a star that gets marketed by the WNBA. And so the WNBA can do a lot better job at marketing stars. But the more interesting point that they brought up on Around the Rim that I want to bring here is the concept of developmental spots on rosters. Now, we know that the WNBA does not have a developmental league like the NBA does, but if you designate a couple of roster spots for players that are just there to develop, for example, if Keanu Traylor would have been able to stay on the Chicago Sky roster and maybe not been on the active roster, but been able to travel with the team, been able to practice with the team, and still been in the organization as a developmental spot. And maybe you have a rule, for example, this wasn't said on Around the Rim, but maybe you have a rule where you say you can keep a player in that developmental spot maybe 2, maybe 3 years, and then that acclimates them to the game, right? The WNBA game, because it's the best of the best, it's a lot different. And when you really look at some of the players around the WNBA, you have players that can do it all. You have players that even at a forward or at a center position can still pass, dribble, and shoot, right? That can do all those things. And so when you come in and you have to acclimate yourself from the women's college basketball game where it's so many teams night in and night out and you're not facing the best of the best every single night, you may need that adjustment period. And having, especially while we're waiting on expansion around the WNBA, having that time where that period where you can have a couple, or even if it's one developmental roster spot where you're developing your next talent to come up, I think could be huge for the WNBA. It could be huge for each club as well. You would have your players that, it doesn't fix the issue of the college players from that previous season getting on the court immediately, but you then have them going through, right, developing, working on stuff with coaches being able to plan and have an outlook on when they think they're going to be able to contribute to the roster rather than cut them, right? It's such a smart idea that I had to talk about it here. Please go and check out Around the Rim podcast as well to just hear their in-depth conversation about it, because I think it was such an astute one that it kind of the light bulb went off after I heard it, and I was like, that makes so much sense, and probably too much sense, unfortunately, for it to happen, but it does make so much sense. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But this is a Chicago Sky podcast, and by the way, let me know, guys, I start off the show with the news from around the W, and then I end with the Chicago Sky news. Let me know if you guys would like that flip, right? I'm still playing with the format. Maybe I should put Sky News first, go around the W at the bottom half of the show. Let me know what you guys think. I want to make sure I deliver the content in a way that is meaningful to you guys as well. So it's a living thing. So please do not hesitate to let me know what you guys think on that one. But the Chicago Sky going 2-0 in the first week, right? And that's with dealing with Marina Mabry being in the rotation one game, out the next, so having Dana Evans start that next game. Still missing Isabel Harrison and overcoming, what she could have meant to the game plan. This team still kind of filling each other out, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And then in our last game, us having just major foul trouble in that game, right? Kalia Copper, Elizabeth Williams, and Rebecca Gardner all in foul trouble almost since the first quarter of that game. The Chicago Sky have shown a brand of defense that, to me, is just amazing to watch. And how they lock in defensively and they don't really get down on themselves. They have that type of way they carry themselves defensively that it's almost like a team that you would think has been here for a long time, right? A team that's been here and that's been going through this for a while. And so to see that brand of defense be there already really makes me feel like the sky, pun intended, is the limit for this team, right? Because the offense is the thing that you can expect to come around. You know what these players bring offensively. They're going to try to find their balance. Marina Mabry, who's going to be the point guard of the squad, has only played in one game. Didn't play in any preseason game. Is still working herself back, right, into rhythm, into figuring out these players. So with that ceiling defensively being as high as what I view it right now. Now we're going to be tested. We'll go over the schedule here in a second. But with the ceiling defensively being as high as what I can view it being if they maintain this brand of defense, and that offense coming along as well over the course of the season, whereas some people thought that the Sky were going to have a really rough go and possibly not even be a playoff team, I think that we're starting to turn some heads on realizing, hey, no, this Sky team is legit, right? And at least when you have that one brand of defense and you have the versatility we do offensively and a pending sixth woman of the year in Rebecca Gardner coming off the bench, I'm telling you, man, just seeing how Mo Birch has played, Elena Smith contributing off the bench for us, they both kind of stepping in and helping fill that spot left by Isabel Harrison, even Robin Park stepping up in that way. But then when you look at our guard play, when you look at Dana Evans, when you look at what Marina Mabry at least projects to be, we haven't gotten to see it very much here yet. You have Courtney Williams, right? That's just, and Rebecca Gardner able to fluctuate between the two. This team, I really do think is going to be so much better than maybe what people were initially thinking coming into the season. And I'm super excited for it. I am super excited for it. But let's talk about what we have coming up, right? We have our longest stretch. We do not have another stretch of being off 3 days until I think the middle of June. So the Sky hopefully are taking in this little bit of rest because we hit the ground running. So for example, the rest of this week, we have the Minnesota Lynx. I'm sorry, no, we don't. We have the Washington Mystics. I was looking in the past. We have the Washington Mystics coming in on Friday, right? That's our home opener. And then we also play Dallas at home on Sunday. But then after that, next week, we got Atlanta Tuesday, New York Friday, New York again Sunday. We then got Indiana Tuesday, which the Fever seem like they're going to suck this season. But then we got the Sparks, then the Aces, then the Fever again, and then 2 games, a home and home against the Washington Mystics again. That puts us through towards the end of June. That is the next month of games that I just went through for the Chicago Sky. It's getting tough real quick. So if that brand of defense is going to be legit like I hope it's going to be, we're going to see that very soon, right? So the next month, basically from the time that the calendar, from May 30th until June 22nd, it's getting tough for the Chicago Sky. And so we're going to see how that team shapes up there. I can't wait to see it. You can be locked in right here because we're going to cover it every day right here. But that's it. That's today's episode. Let me know what you guys think. When you look at the upcoming schedule for the Chicago Sky, do you think it's going to bust pipes or do you think it's going to make diamonds for this team that is on the precipice of being much better than what people think they're going to be? Make sure you're following the show at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Sky related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, see you guys the next time we go to Skytown, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.